So Voltron Legendary Defender is a series on Netflix that just released its 3rd season. Now in the show there's 5 people called paladins that work together to pilot the legendary robot Voltron. Every paladin has this little thing called a Bayard, and the Bayard kind of transforms into a different weapon for each paladin based on their strengths and weaknesses. And for the paladin whose name is Keith, his Bayard transforms into a sword. Now the interesting thing about this sword is that the handle is actually at a perpendicular angle to the blade. Whenever I watch him using the sword in the show, all I can think about is if it would be easier or harder, or if it would work at all to actually fight with a sword that's shaped like that in real life. I have come up with some reasons why it would not be that great, but to show you I need to actually make a sword. So let me just lay down some background music while the sword gets made. Bum 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 ba da ba dum bum ba da 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 dum dum bum 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 ba da dum dum dum. Am I still making it? I don't know if it's finished. This will be in the edit. Ba biddy boop biddy ba ba doo. So anyway, this is the kind of replica I made of Keith's swords. It's not to exact millimeter scale, but it's close enough to scale to show you the thing I want to show you. So I'm not an expert in swords or anything, but I do know enough about the how and the why of swords to explain some of the good things and bad things about this one. One really good thing about this sword is that it's actually pretty well balanced. Obviously I didn't make this out of the same material as the sword is made of in the show. This is made of wood. I think the one in the show is made of space wood. But this still gives a pretty good idea of the weight distribution of the shape of the sword. Now I don't know if any of you watch the YouTube channel Michael Cthulhu, but basically his channel is just making real life versions of big giant swords that are seen in movies, TV shows and video games. Now in basically every one of his builds he encounters the same problem, and that is that these swords have really bad weight distribution. You've got these huge enormous heavy blades and this tiny little handle at the end, which makes it really difficult to lift the weight of the sword even if it isn't that much. Now in my opinion that's basically because these huge giant fantasy swords never really have a proper pommel. Our pommel, for those that don't know, is basically a little bit of mass that goes on the end of the handle that kind of counteracts the weight of the blade and brings the center of gravity down to where your hand is, that makes you be able to move the sword around a lot quicker. Good thing about this sword though is that the Bayard actually kind of functions like a pommel. This thing is so bulky that it kind of brings the center of gravity down to around where your hand is. So it's really easy to hold pointing straight out. It doesn't start to droop down. Now it's time to talk about the problem with the sword though, and this is a major problem, probably one that would get you killed if you tried to use it in real life. If you were using just a regular type sword and someone tried to deflect a thrust of yours, like either up or down, it would move your hand out of the way, which is bad, but you're still holding the sword correctly. You can bring it back and kind of get back into the fight. With this one though, because your hand is at a 90-degree perpendicular angle to the blade, if someone deflects a thrust, no matter how hard you're grabbing it, it's gonna rotate in your hand. Now it doesn't matter if they deflect up or if they deflect down. If you're kind of going with one of those thrust attacks and they do this, the thing is gonna rotate in your hand. It's gonna be really difficult to get it back into fighting position. It's gonna give them enough time to just kill you. Probably. And that is why I don't think this sword would be the best thing to use in a real fight. Please feel free to jump in the comments and let me know why I'm a stupid, wrong idiot. I'm kind of being rude there. If anyone does know more about swords than me and I am wrong in some way, do let me know. I do go in the comments and read everything. Hey, thanks so much to my latest supporters on Patreon. One of the perks on there is that I mention your name in a video and make an offensive pun about it. So here we go, my first supporter, If You Will 'Em, more like If I Bill 'Em, because I'm gonna bill you for that Patreon money. And to my second new supporter, Dimmy Scarlatos, I think I very badly pronounced your name, and that's probably offensive enough as it is. Thank you. So those two people have some paintings and sketches headed their way. There's some of the perks on Patreon. If you're interested, go to the link below and check it out. Also, if you don't watch Voltron Legendary Defender, watch it. It's so good.